All right, Melrose, welcome to Talking Toku, Melrose's only podcast about Godzilla, Gamera, Ultraman, and everything kaiju under the sun. I'm your host, David Scrivani.
I'm co-host Brian Kershaw.
And we also have a special guest.
Jacob Mack.
Whoa.
That kind of just infiltrated the
Yeah,
podcast
but you know,
at the last
it's okay,
second.
because we're all pals here. It's okay.
I'm not as big of a Godzilla fan as Dave, but I do like monster movies, so there's that.
That's what this podcast is for. It's for people who, it's for fans, and it's also for people who are just starting to get into the franchise. Not that that's you. I've shown you basically every single Godzilla movie under the sun, but
They're all burned into my brain.
they are. That's my end goal, is to have every Godzilla movie burned into everyone's brain. But yeah, this is going to be a maybe bi-weekly. I don't know. That'll be up to you and me, Brian, but we'll see. So first off, let's get into the news. You want to talk about Destiny, Brian?
Yeah. With the hit game Destiny 2, Bungie, the developers, put out a poll on Twitter regarding the next Halloween event and what kind of armor they want. And the two options were dinosaurs and classic giant monsters. And it is basically 50-50 on what people want.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but everyone's really mad because hunters are Godzilla and hunters are the worst.
That might mean something to you, Jake.
It does. I do like
Over
Destiny.
my head.
I haven't played it recently, but I did play a lot of it back when Shadowkeep came out.
It's better now.
Yeah.
It kind of went through as it often does, it goes through a period where it's not fun.
I feel like, Destiny, it's weird because it keeps going through this cycle where everyone complains about it for like 2 to 3 months, then they release a new expansion pack that's like the new big thing, and everyone's like, oh, Destiny's great again, you know?
Yeah.
And then it goes back to people complaining about it. I've always enjoyed it. I play it periodically, like every couple of months, and it's been about the same game, but I still like it.
The people who tend to complain about it a lot pour just their whole life into the game.
Yeah, they complain about weapon sundowning and all that.
Well, they got rid of that. That was actually just bad design. But that's the news. I was psyched about it. Of course, I voted for giant monsters because
it's what, Godzilla, the Gillman, and the Cyclops?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited about the Cyclops because I think that looks awesome. And I like one eye armor. I think it looks cool. I don't know.
All right. Also in the news, we got a bunch of news, sort of belated, but Bandai just recently unveiled their 6-inch movie monster series figures for Godzilla Singular Point. The two figures they revealed are Godzilla Ultima. I guess that's what Singular Point Godzilla is going to be called. I have no idea what that means, but I guess we'll find out when Singular Point comes out. And our new short king Jet Jaguar. You remember Jet Jaguar?
Yeah, he's the man.
He is the man, all right. I've seen multiple memes comparing Jet Jaguar to the picture, the Photoshop of Keanu Reeves at E3 talking about Cyberpunk, where they Photoshop him to make him look like a child. I'm like, that's some good stuff. So yeah, those are. I think you can buy them right now. They're about $35 because you got to import them from Japan, so they're a little pricier.
A lot of money.
Yeah, or if you know people like I do, you can buy them for slightly cheaper, because they still got to import them anyways. Also, Season 1 of Pacific Rim The Black, Netflix's original Pacific Rim anime, is now streaming as of last Thursday, the 4th. I've watched the first 3 episodes. I don't know if you guys have watched any of it so far.
No, I've only seen the first movie.
Okay,
I've heard good things about the show, though.
Yeah, don't watch the second movie. That'll be a later episode, though. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's our job, Dave.
Yeah, it'll be our job. But I've seen the first 3 episodes of The Black, and so far it's really, really good. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. Still not a fan of Polygon's art style, but it's certainly better than their previous kaiju effort, which was the Godzilla trilogy.
Same team.
Yeah, same team. You and I, Jake, we watched the first one of those.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
It wasn't anything great, but...
Yeah, but no, this Pacific Rim Black is way better. Visually, I really like the characters so far, and some of the kaiju designs are top-notch, I gotta say. So that's currently streaming on Netflix, the whole season. I think they're going to be doing a second season soon, at some point. But Brian and I will probably be talking about the full season once we both actually watch.
Yeah, I haven't gotten on that just yet.
Yeah.
Probably within the next 2 days.
Yeah. I mean, that'll probably be the next episode of the podcast we do before Godzilla vs. Kong comes out.
Oh, boy.
Okay, a couple more things in the news. Legendary Pictures, the architects of the MonsterVerse have recently announced that Godzilla, the 2014 film, is going to be coming to 4K. And that brings with it some hesitation from fans. You probably know, Brian. Jake, I don't know if you know, the current Blu-ray transfer for the 2014 Godzilla looks terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
It is rough.
It's not the video quality that is a problem. It's the transfer. During the darker scenes of the film, it is pitch black. It's like there's this like weird dark filter over the entire movie, and no one's quite sure why. Every time I watched it, I have to screw with the brightness settings on my TV. It's annoying. For some reason, I have not tried this myself because I don't own a 3D Blu-ray player. For some reason, what I've heard is that if you use the 3D disc but select the 2D version, that looks fine.
Weird. That must have been the actual like real version you're supposed to watch, but they just messed up like the order
and,
on the disc.
Warner Brothers hasn't done anything to remedy that since. And this movie's been out for 6 years now. 6 years? Yeah, 6 years. That sounds about right. I'm not good with the math.
7.
7. Thank you. Oh yeah, 14, 21. That would be 7. But since they're coming out with a 4K version now, people are thinking, oh, is it gonna look better? And they've been posting screenshots with, the hashtag Godzilla 4K, but also the screenshots they've been posting are ones that they've used numerous times in various promotional materials. So people are like, still like, is it gonna look good or not? I would love to have a better looking version. I think the PlayStation 5 plays 4K, so I might be able to do that. We'll see. I'll wait till reviews come out.
But Dave, it's got 4,000 times the pixels.
It does.
4,000 times the Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Or not 4,000 times, but 4 times the pixels. Wait.
Listen, if I've learned anything from film school with good old Zach Lee, the human eye can't see 4K.
Yeah.
It's a myth.
That's not true.
There's are you a film boy?
Apparently it's a scam.
Yeah, from what I've heard.
I mean,
you can't 4K TVs, especially from what I've heard, you can't really see the difference unless you're 30 feet away from the screen.
I mean, yeah, it only really makes a difference if it's a huge TV.
Yeah, which I don't have room in my house for a big TV like that.
An 80-inch.
Yeah, God, I wish. But yeah, we'll see about that. And also in Godzilla 4K news, Toho just announced the other day that they are going to be remastering some of the older Godzilla movies in 4K. They're going to be doing the entire series in 4K, but they just announced the first couple. They're going to be the original Godzilla, King Kong versus Godzilla, Mothra versus Godzilla, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, Invasion of Astro Monster, Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, and Godzilla vs. Biollante. These will all be airing on the Nippon Classic Movie Channel. I think that they just started airing them a couple days ago. So far, these are only airing in Japan, which kind of blows because if you guys are not aware, Toho is notoriously difficult to work with, and with the new-ish, it's like 2 years old now, Criterion Blu-ray set for the Showa Godzilla series doesn't look great. They use masters that are like 10 years old now, so it's still like really grainy and not that great looking.
In the Criterion one.
The Criterion one. Yeah, because Toho was just like, you can have these old ones, whatever. We're not going to give you the good ones. And now they're releasing them in 4K. And are we going to get them in the States anytime soon? Who knows? I really wish we would, because when Brian and I were, I don't know if you noticed this, Brian, when we were watching King Kong versus Godzilla for today's episode, the Japanese version especially looked rough. I'm like, this looks like a laser disc from the 90s. How did they allow this?
Yeah, it was not good.
Oh, it was.
Because usually Criterion does the restoration in-house.
Toho did not allow them to do that.
Wow.
Toho is very, very strict about who handles their property and how they handle the property. And I guess Criterion, they just don't cut the mustard. They're like, Criterion, one of the best video releasing companies ever? I don't think so.
Maybe it's like a pride thing because it's a outside company.
Maybe.
Or something.
Or maybe it's due to Godzilla 98.
Criterion had nothing to do with Godzilla 98, unless...
Or Americans.
No, but
Or Americans in general.
American companies.
Good point.
If we know how to do one thing, it's mishandle products from other countries.
You got that right.
If there's one thing we know, it's mishandling other countries.
If there's one thing we know, it's mishandling stuff in general.
If there's one thing we know, it's mishandling Japanese things in general.
Oh, yeah.
But that's about all I have for the news, unless you guys have something. I don't know.
I mean, this would be going back a little ways, but there was a trailer for Shin Ultraman back in January.
There was a trailer for Shin Ultraman, yeah. Did you see that, Brian?
I did not.
You did not? Oh, well.
For Hideki Anno,
Yeah, Hideki Anno. He did Shin Godzilla. Was like, nah, I want to do Ultraman too, which I think Ultraman was like one of the things that got him into filmmaking, because I think one of the first things he did was like a fan episode of Return of Ultraman, which I think you can find on YouTube. Yeah, so it's interesting to see Anno being able to come in and do the thing like in an official sense of something that he really had a passion for at the beginning of his career. And I mean, it looks like Shin Godzilla with all the suits and everything.
You think it's going to have quite the like deconstructive or elements that Shin Godzilla had, where it was kind of like a new take on the older movie? Or is this going to be more of just like a throwback to
I'm
the
really
older?
not sure. I mean, people have... I will say I like the fact that they got rid of the color timer on Ultraman's chest, because the original character designer, Toll Narda, he never did the color timer. And when they added the color timer, he hated it. He was like, this is awful. So the fact that they took that away makes me think maybe they're going to be doing something really interesting with Ultraman like they did with Shin Godzilla. And all right, this is going to be a bit of a tangent, but you know, that's what we're here for. The two monsters that they showed off in the trailer, Naranga and Gavora, those two monsters in the original series were recycled suits from Baragon from the Godzilla series. And there's like 5 or 6 monsters from the Ultraman series that were recycled from that suit alone. And I think a couple days after that trailer dropped, Bandai, for whatever reason, they released high-res scans of the models for those two monsters. And a lot of people noticed that aside from like the heads and the backs, they were essentially the same model. So I'm like, oh, are they going to be doing something interesting with, you know, how those characters were originally created? I don't know, but I'll be interested to see it, that's for sure. Especially now that I'm actually getting into Ultraman. Thanks, Mill Creek.
I'll be looking forward to it. I haven't seen really any Ultraman stuff since like I was in 2nd grade, but
Oh, actually,
I'd like to get back into it.
Speaking of Hideaki Anno, here's another piece of news that I saw this morning. A lot of people are excited for the 4th and final Evangelion movie.
Oh, it's the final.
Yeah, Evangelion 1.0 plus 3.0. I don't remember what the subtitle was, but apparently the closed captioning track for theaters leaked, which means the entire script leaked online. From what I've heard, people aren't too happy. But
there's no dub yet, right?
There's no dub yet, no. I assume there will be, but yeah, apparently the whole closed captioning track leaked, and people aren't happy. But like, it's Evangelion ending again.
People not happy with Evangelion.
I know, right?
Wow.
Who would have thought? Brian has no idea what we're talking about. He hasn't watched Evangelion.
I watched a little bit of it with you.
I showed you the first Rebuild movie.
Yeah, but other than that, I have no knowledge.
It's on Netflix, the whole series.
All I know is that whenever anyone talks about it, they get mad.
Well, you know, that's yeah, you basically got it right there. But yeah, I think that about does it for the news, as far as I can tell. So let's talk about our main topic for the day. Brian, do the honors. What are we talking about?
So, in preparation for the new Godzilla vs. King Kong movie, we went back and watched the original, Japanese and American, and boy, was it an experience.
Hard agree. I don't know if this is the same for you, but I had never even seen the American cut of King Kong vs. Godzilla until 2 days ago, mostly because when I was a couple years ago, when I was trying to collect every single Godzilla movie that existed, I was like, I want the Japanese cuts. I'm a purist. So I got a bootleg DVD of the Japanese cut because up until 2 years ago when the Criterion set came out, the Japanese cut of King Kong vs. Godzilla was not available in the States legally. I think it's safe to say the Japanese cut's a lot better.
I mean, yeah. It was a lot more enjoyable to watch. With the American version, I was struggling.
I think with the so I don't know when the last time you saw King Kong vs. Godzilla, probably when we watched it.
Yeah, like a year ago, maybe. And I did see the original American when I was very young, like maybe like 6 or 7.
So I don't know if you got the sense when I showed it to you. I used my bootleg DVD, and having seen the officially translated version with the Criterion set, there is a lot of discrepancies between translation and subtitles, and I think the fact that the movie is a comedy doesn't carry across well on the version I showed you. Did you get that at all? The fact that it's a comedy?
No, not really.
It's very even in the official translation on the Criterion set. It's very subtle, but the whole thing is that it's a comedy / satire on the state of like television and advertising, and that's why Mr. Taco of Pacific Pharmaceuticals, the character, he wants Kong to basically be used as a mascot for his company. Like in the Japanese cut on the Criterion set, he's like, "Oh, King Kong can beat Godzilla because he uses Pacific Pharmaceuticals drugs." It's like, what? Okay, but that especially doesn't really carry over to the American cut at all. Like the American cut, it's just like, oh, here's another '60s monster movie. Okay, that's all it is.
It basically shares nothing with the Japanese cut other than the scenes and the characters. The Japanese dialogue, like what they were actually saying, was like not used at all, and they just put like it's like completely different. I was so lost. I was like, this is so different from, because I watched the Japanese cut first.
Right.
And like it's been a long time since I've seen the Japanese or the American cut. I was like barely following along. I was like, I thought I knew what I was gonna watch again, and then they were like cutting back to like this stereotypical like American
like news reporter,
American guy, and then like a weird space station.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? Like, why is this break? Why is this like used as a break in the movie? Like,
I don't know. It's very, and it's funny you mention the characters because like we never actually get introduced to the main characters like we do in the Japanese cut. It just, so in the Japanese cut they go through this thing and like the two main characters Furue and Sakurai, you know, they meet up and be like, oh, there's this job that we can do. We can go to this mysterious island to look for a giant monster. But about probably 10 minutes into the American cut, it just cut when the first time we see him is like, oh, they're already going there.
Yeah, I was so confused. I was like, did I miss something?
Yeah,
because they're not introduced at all. There's like no character motivation to why they're going. You know, at least in the Japanese cut, you get a little bit of an idea. Like you see that they're like in a failing business. And so they're like, all right, our last ditch is we're going to go to this island and like find whatever's there.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, that makes sense. But then in the American cut, it's just like smash cut. They're on a boat already.
Yeah.
And like, they're just going for it.
It's like they're meeting with the doctor who studied there. And then next time we see them, bam, they're on the boat. And it's like, oh, where did any of that exposition go?
Sounds like they're trying to do kind of like what they did in the original American cut of the original Godzilla with Raymond Burr, where they just kind of have this American character introduced, and then the original cast are kind of put more on the sidelines.
Yeah.
But doesn't sound like they really did it nearly as well.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. But it was certainly interesting to see. Again, this was my first time viewing for the American cut. One of the things that bugged the heck out of me, Akira Ifukube, who is the composer of the film and a lot of the Godzilla films, almost none of his score makes it into the American cut. I
noticed that.
Yeah, it's like basically the Faro Island chant is the only piece of music that makes it in, which is such a shame because he did not have to go nearly as hard as he did on composing the score.
The score was the best part of the Japanese movie.
Absolutely.
I was super into it, and those like opening credits, I was like, hell yeah. I was like, yeah, like this is good.
But like in the American cut, it's like it's all like stock music reused from like old Universal monster movies. It's like
dun 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 dun, like it's
I think that they have a lot of
big band stuff.
I think they use a lot of the score from Creature from the Black Lagoon is one of the movies that I saw listed. It's like, oh man, they really did they did Ifukube dirty here. Dang. And another thing I noticed. So I in the past have been kind of lukewarm on King Kong versus Godzilla in general. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because this is a official, professionally done translation of the subtitles. I was like really into this time. I don't know what it was. I was really enjoying it way more than I ever have in the past. Because usually I'm just like, it's fine. It's I feel like Mothra versus Godzilla takes the same concept and does it way, way better. But I was like, oh, you know what? I see it now. I see why people really like this movie. I get it. It's all clear to me.
So for the longest time, I had the idea that people just said Godzilla versus Kong was bad. And like I kind of latched onto that because like I only had seen it a couple times and I don't remember being over the moon about it. But I was a kid. So like I don't really remember my original thoughts on it, but going back and watching the Japanese version, which I had never seen, this is the first time I saw it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty good. The American version, no, I'm never watching it ever again. Unless I have to do something like this, I'm never watching it again. But the Japanese version was pretty good. I had a good time watching it. The design for Kong and Godzilla are not my favorite. They look really goofy, but I don't really think you can do anything about that with just the resources and the time that it came out. I especially thought that close-up shots of Kong looked rough, but at this time, like there's not really much you can do about it. But like the music, great. I generally liked the characters. Like I thought they were at least funny sometimes.
Mr. Taco carries that movie.
He does. He is
a cartoon character made real.
So
he's hilarious.
I actually took a couple notes of this movie, and one of the notes that I took, I kid you not, was he is insane. Taco is insane. And then there was also at one point that I just kind of like lost it, which was it was like earlier on in the movie, and the guy wanted to test his like wiring thing.
Oh yeah.
And he literally risked his life to do a proof of concept. He was like hanging off of his balcony with this like it was
just super strong thread. They didn't really explain where it came from. It was just, oh yeah, I got some super strong thread.
And like I was like, all right, after I saw that, I was like, I'm on board. Like this is at least gonna be funny.
Yeah.
And it was pretty funny, like most of the time.
Yeah, Taco is, again, he's a cartoon character. There are scenes where he's literally trying to like rip out his hair because like he's frustrated that Godzilla's getting all the news coverage, not his monster, not Kong. And he's like, oh, King Kong versus Godzilla, I'll buy that idea. We'll make a bet. How much you want to bet that Kong will beat Godzilla? It's like, dude, this is people are dying. Like you're making a sensational story out of this, and that was the whole point of the film. Because I guess like at the time, like there was a lot of that, like in Japanese wrestling, there were people like really getting really into these two titans of wrestling in Japan. I know nothing about Japanese wrestling. I'm sure you guys don't either, but that's what I know. That's the little tidbit I know, and so that's what Ishiro Honda, the director, kind of took into when he made the movie. He's like, oh, let's do something like this. But no, yeah, I found it a lot more funny this time around than any other time I've seen the movie.
Yeah, I had a great time watching specifically the Japanese cut. Don't watch the American.
Yeah.
Just don't. It's what they did for the original, just
not as good.
Really, like, just way worse. Like, it's the same concept of just an American dude on the scene used lightly because he's like in New York or something, but
he's not even.
Yeah, he's just like commentating from a newsroom as to what's happening.
Like you can
tell, he has a little TV screen next to him that's like playing the actual movie, and he's like, "Oh, look, Godzilla's doing this." Look, he's breaking out of the iceberg. What's going on there?
But then they also cut to like a Japanese correspondent who as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, why not just make like a Japanese American correspondent? Why do you have to make it a white guy in like New York?
Because it's America in the 60s, Brian.
I mean,
They needed one white person
Yeah.
to sell the movie.
oh, and then they bring in they bring in the scientist guy, and he explains that it's like a mix between like a T-Rex and like a
Stegosaurus,
A Stegosaurus.
yeah.
I was like, what?
That's like the one scene from the American cut I had seen, like, and up until very recently, because he's like, oh, Godzilla, he's a reptile, so his brain's the size of this walnut here. Kong, he is a thinking animal. He's got like a skull of a gorilla just on his person. He's like, he's got a big brain like this. And it's like, what is happening right now?
That's like fans complaining about like the new Godzilla versus King Kong, trying to figure out who's going to win, you know?
Godzilla, he's
got a little pea brain.
He's got a radioactive breath, but Kong, he monkey.
See, Kong is a thinking man.
Yeah.
He's a thinking man.
It's funny that like the original cut is like specifically a comedy, but then the American cut just tried to make it a B movie, and then they made it unintentionally a comedy.
Yeah, I felt like I was laughing at the movie with the American, and I was laughing with the movie with the Japanese. I don't know if they were going for that.
I don't think they were. I really don't think they were. It's something, I'll tell you. But again, good luck finding the Japanese cut. You can only find it on the bonus disc of the Criterion set. Anywhere else, you'll only be able to find the American cut, unfortunately. Thanks, Universal. But, I mean, hey, hopefully with Godzilla vs. Kong coming out, we'll actually get a decent release, a decent, good-looking release for the original King Kong versus Godzilla.
So, quick question here.
Yes.
In your opinion, do you think Kong's electric powers are going to come back?
I've seen a lot of people talking about that. If they do, I'd be so down.
So, I was very kind of like lost when it happened because I don't think I picked up on what they were like the setup. It was a really subtle setup for these electric powers.
Because he just chews on the power lines, and all of a sudden he can be supercharged by lightning.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well maybe he just really doesn't care about electricity, but apparently it just like supercharged him, and I'm just like, okay, well, do you think they'll ever bring that back? Like, it's so goofy, but they've kind of gone the goof route at this point with Legendary.
I think the reason they gave Kong the electricity powers is because in those early movies, especially for Godzilla was weak to electricity. You know, they have, in the original movie, they try to, put up power lines. It doesn't really work. But in this movie, they do it again. It actually does something because they used 1 million volts instead of 100,000. And that actually seems to, weaken him a little bit. So I think that's why they gave Kong electricity powers, to give him, a fighting chance against a radioactive fire-breathing creature. So, but as for whether or not we'll actually see that in Godzilla vs. Kong, probably not, I would say, because they gave him the axe. I feel like if he didn't have the axe, then he'd probably, I would imagine they'd give him something akin to the lightning powers.
I think they're going to go way farther down the thinking man route and just making him really smart, because they kind of went that route in Skull Island.
Yeah,
like they showed that he's not dumb.
Well, I've tried to stay away from like any of the other TV spots, but with how many pages I follow on various social media accounts, it's hard to not see something. And in one of the TV spots, they have him signing. They have him communicating with the little girl that's in the trailer. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Having Kong be able to communicate with a human. I don't think I've ever seen that done in a Kong movie. That's so cool.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was pretty sick.
Yeah, so I think they're definitely going down the route of making Kong like really, really intelligent, and I think that'll be I think Adam Wingard, who directed the movie, said that they're doing a lot of interesting things with, instead of always having the human characters be our like eyes and ears into what's going on, because they made Kong more intelligent. That's kind of that's going to play into how we see the events of the film. We're going to be seeing things through Kong's eyes.
So he's going to be more of the like an active protagonist now.
That seems to be the route they're going, and I think it's a really cool idea, and I'm excited to see where they go with that.
Do you have any thoughts on who is going to win Because Adam Wingard did say on
He
Twitter
has
that
said,
that there
yeah.
is going to be a definitive winner.
I really don't know. It's so tough to say because like people there are like big fans of Kong and big fans of Godzilla, and I really don't. I mean,
Here's what I think is going to happen.
Okay,
I
lay it on
think,
me.
I genuinely think Kong is going to win,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to be a fake out.
okay.
Like I don't think this movie is going to end in a death. I think it's just going to be
They can't, if it's gonna end on that, it can't be Godzilla because Toho like specifically said you cannot kill Godzilla off. You
Yeah.
can't kill Godzilla off.
Have they made any? Have they said anything about allowing the American version to have like Son of Godzilla? Like I forget what his name was, but like
Manila or
Yeah.
Boy.
Manila.
well, like because think about it. If he dies, they could technically keep Godzilla alive if they.
They technically could,
know,
but I
with a
don't.
song.
They haven't set that up at all, so I don't. And it'd be very weird to just kind of throw that in as like. Could you imagine a Manila post-credit scene? In
Well, yeah,
Godzilla
like an out of an egg or something.
Oh my
like,
god, that'd be incredible.
It's like the post credits from Godzilla '98, where it's just like a mini Godzilla
Yeah.
just coming out of an egg, just like in a train station somewhere.
I mean, I guess they've kind of gone the full goofy route. So like, I guess it's possible. I don't think they will, but it's possible. I mean, they've already confirmed that like Godzilla is not the only one of his kind in this universe. Like, they have the what is it called? Godzilla Aftershock, which is the prequel comic to King of the Monsters, and they confirmed that the skeleton from the 2014 film was another Godzilla.
Okay.
And that's why the Muto eggs were there, because they feed off of Godzilla, and they like it's some weird like parasitical thing where they impregnate Godzilla bodies with their eggs. It was very weird. It wasn't a very good comic, but they
It's
did
an alien.
yeah, but they did establish that was another Godzilla, and they called him like Dagon or something.
Like from Lovecraft,
I guess so. Yeah,
God of the Sea.
yeah. I would say Godzilla's a god of the sea.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but does he turn people into fish?
Maybe.
All right, well,
He is technically an artificial island if he swims on his back, you know.
Yeah, that's true. You could live on Godzilla's back. Nothing stopping you. I mean, maybe getting cancer from the sheer amounts of radiation, but
or just flat out dying from it.
yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, I feel like Kong is probably gonna win just because most of the ways that Godzilla could defeat Kong would probably end up with him dying. Mm-hmm. And and like you said, neither of them are probably gonna die.
No.
So.
I would be really upset if either of them die because I love Kong Skull Island to death, and I really want to see more Kong movies. I want to see more Godzilla movies too, but so far we've gotten now 3 Godzilla movies and only 2 Kong movies. There's a discrepancy here. I want more Kong. And again, that's coming from a lifelong Godzilla fan, but that's just how good Kong Skull Island is.
Before Skull Island, okay, so the Peter Jackson one was like what, 2004,
2005, I want to say.
And before that, it was like what, the one from like the 80s or 70s?
Yeah. So yeah, there's just not many Kong movies in existence in general. So like we would need more. Have you read the Kong Skull Island tie-in comic?
No way, not.
It's like Skull Island, the birth of Kong. It like because like in that movie you see, that graveyard of dead Kongs, and it goes into like how that happened. It's really really cool.
That's cool.
And it seems like they might be covering that in Godzilla versus Kong. Not sure, but like with the axe seems like kind of like a ritualistic weapon.
I was going
for
to
the
say
Kongs.
Ancestral. kinda.
Ancestral. That's a better word for it. Thank you. But yeah, no, I really love that comic, and I would just love to see another Kong-centric movie in this universe.
If there is one thing I'm hoping the new Godzilla vs. Kong movie does is establish a reason to why they're fighting. Like, I know that they're going like there has kind of been given one, like that Godzilla's just kind of going nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But like before this movie, Kong has kind of just been all right being on his own island. He never really concerned himself with what was going on.
Yeah.
Like even during Godzilla King of the Monsters, a movie I don't really like all that much. He didn't really do anything. He kind of just stayed on his island and resisted whatever was going on.
Well, I've read a passage from the novelization. Apparently, when King Ghidorah does that like alpha call to wake up all the other Titans, it in the novelization it cuts back to Kong, and he like reacts to the call, and he's like, "Shut up." And he just goes back to whatever he's doing. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, dude, I love Kong. He doesn't care. He's like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, like
you keep doing you.
Like I guess like the skull crawlers from Kong Skull Island kind of like come up out of the ground to respond. He's like, get back down there. I didn't say you could leave. Go on. I'm like, oh, all right, that's neat. But yeah, I think unfortunately they're kind of going the route of like, oh, Kong is yet another animal that Godzilla has an ancient rivalry with. Not like we've done this 1, 2, 3 times already. It's like,
yeah, it just gets really stale. Like,
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
like it's really the only thing you can do if you're going the whole like these are animal routes. But like, if they're all apex predators, then they're all just gonna inhabit different parts of the world because that's how apex predators work. They just find their own spot of land or whatever. And like with Ghidorah, it made sense because he was just not from Earth.
yeah. So that
all. But with Kong, like he's been on his island forever, and he doesn't really seem keen to leave.
Yeah.
And Godzilla doesn't really seem keen to go there. So it's just kind of like I'm hoping that they do something interesting with the reasoning. If they don't, that's gonna be kind of a loss with me because like, give me a cool reason why.
Yeah, not just like, they don't know what each other, like first time they bump into each other and they're scared, so they fight or something, you know?
Don't just give me the like Godzilla bullied Kong in high school. Thing.
I mean,
like,
I'd be okay with that reasoning.
it would be pretty funny.
Yeah.
But like, come on, like do something a little bit more interesting than they hated each other for all time.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there was that the cave painting, the King of the Monsters credits. That was just the same thing as the cave painting in the post credits for Kong Skull Island with Godzilla and Ghidorah.
That was pretty hype, though.
It was, yeah. But
I remember when we saw that, and you were like, "Oh boy!"
Even though I got spoiled for it because I saw, Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, King Ghidorah are all copyrights for Toku Company Limited. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. I guess that's what we're getting in the post credit scene.
Kind of weird how they showed that before they
have to
before the post credit scene.
I mean, legally they have to. They can't do. They wouldn't be able to do credits unless they were to do it as a mid credits.
Oh yeah,
they didn't. So, oh well, I guess. But yeah, so we've talked quite a bit about the upcoming Godzilla vs. Kong as well. So. But rest assured, we'll be doing another episode on that when the movie actually comes out, and
31st, right?
31st, March 31st. I think that's a Wednesday or something. Kind of a weird day to drop a movie, but they got the HBO Max had to make room to release the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League.
That's true, the 4-hour cut.
4-hour cut.
Now, do we think
that's a real monster?
Do we think that? Do we think that Justice League Zack Snyder cut is going to be better than Godzilla vs. Kong?
I don't know. That's a too difficult a comparison to make at the moment.
I would be down to talk about that movie, the original, the original cut.
But this is a Godzilla podcast, Brian. We can't do Justice League. There's no giant monster in Justice League.
I mean,
I'll make a Justice League podcast, and that's all we'll talk about.
All right, let's do it. I'm down with that.
I mean, like, there's big people in Justice League.
There's big people.
You could say that they're giant monsters, you know?
Darkseid's kind of a monster. He's slightly bigger than your average man.
And hey, there's, like, big tentacles coming out of the ground, sorta.
So, yeah, they didn't really explain what those were, I guess.
No.
I know.
Nothing in that movie was explained, dude.
Now everything's going to be explained.
I know, right?
Whether you like it or not.
Now they're going to go the opposite direction over explain
George Lucas style.
Oh, my God. Brian, what cool new kaiju thing have you been checking out recently?
Godzilla vs. Kong, and that's about it.
Jake, any new kaiju stuff you've been checking out?
No.
Oh, I guess it's just me. I've been watching Ultraman Taro recently, because again, thanks to Mill Creek, who have been putting out every single Ultraman series in existence, I've been actually able to check out Ultraman, something I haven't been able to do ever, because they weren't like easily available as Godzilla was, getting VHS tapes at good old Blockbuster Video. But now that I actually have access to them, I'm like, man, I wish I could have seen these as a kid. I would have been so into these. But Taro's been pretty interesting so far. It's a little more kid-friendly than I would like, especially, I guess, compared to the previous series, Ultraman Ace, which was kind of shockingly violent. Like, I specifically remember there was a scene with Ace and two other monsters, and the one monster literally performs a God of War finisher on the other one. I'm like, oh my God, kids watch this?
Doesn't Asuno drop on him or something?
So it's the one from the latest game against like the, they're called like wolvers. They're basically werewolves, where Kratos kind of grabs the jaw and peels it like a banana. And that happened in Ultraman. I'm like, okay then.
Kind of like the scene from King Kong 2005 with the T-Rex.
The T-Rex, yeah, breaking the jaw.
Was this like vertical or horizontal? Like he's like,
It was like the monster was on the ground and he kind of took and just kind of peeled away the bottom jaw. I'm like, oh my God.
nice.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Taro's been a little more kid friendly, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it was not what I was expecting. From what I've heard, the following series, Ultraman Leo, is really, really dark. So I'll be excited to see that. No, Taro's been pretty fun. It's definitely a good entryway into Ultraman, I would say, between that and the original Ultraman series. You know, a lot of there's some pretty interesting kaiju designs, which that's kind of always the case with every Ultraman series. But I like the characters. I like how they've actually brought the other Ultraman actors in, because I think starting with Return of Ultraman, they brought like Ultraman and Ultra 7 in, but they never had like Shin Hayata or Dan Moriboshi, who were the hosts of the Ultraman. But this time they actually did. I'm like, oh, I missed these guys. I remember Hideki Go. That was my favorite guy. Good to see him again. So, no, yeah, Taro's been pretty good so far. I'm looking forward to watching Leo when it comes out in May. I think they pushed it back to now. So that's the cool new kaiju thing I've been watching.
Next up for me is I'm just going to watch the Pacific Rim series.
Yeah, same.
And that I think that'll be our next episode. So tune in next time.
Yeah, I was planning on watching it last night, but I was so drained after
King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Well, just after two Godzilla movies.
That's fair.
And
see, I didn't watch them back to back. I watched the Japanese cut one day, and then I watched the American cut in the morning.
well, I was planning on watching them separately on different days, but my schedule was just
Understandable.
so I had to do myself dirty and watch both of them back to back.
That sounds exhausting.
And it was exactly as exhausting as it sounds.
Well, at least now you are more knowledgeable for it, I guess you could say. Whether that's a good knowledge or bad knowledge, I'll let you make that decision.
It's taking up space in your brain.
It's taking
Think
up
about
space in
all
your
the
brain.
things that could be in there, you know? Like, now it's filled with Godzilla.
Yeah.
It'll soon become like Dave, and
Yeah.
that's just all that's left.
All powerful with Godzilla knowledge.
Maybe someday.
Maybe someday. That can be your goal in life, Brian, to become as powerful as me with Godzilla knowledge.
A Godzilla scholar with a PhD.
I got a PhD in Godzilla studies and Godzillology.
So wait, what would the courses be for Godzilla knowledge?
I'll get back to you on that.
Be like a history of film type class, but just for Godzilla.
Well, yeah. I've made multiple jokes that like I have to start a suitmation class at Fitchburg State. I don't know how to do it, but it would be cool to do.
Prepare to be underfunded.
Oh, you know it. Just buy a ton of clay and be like, all right, go nuts.
And cardboards
Make
and
a
stuff.
make a Godzilla suit.
Buy an actual octopus like they did for Godzilla
They
vs.
did.
Kong, and then use that.
They did.
Just tell a student, just throw that on your head. Just,
Yeah, there you go.
For real though, that effect still looks great.
It does.
In the Japanese, in the American version, I think they
No, they use the same footage.
use the same footage, but for me, watching them back to back, it looks like they lightened it a bit, so the effect is more noticeable. It looks worse. Just something I noticed. Don't really know since you didn't watch them back to back.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like me. But it
All
looks
right,
like
now who's flexing?
somehow it looked like that effect just looked worse. I think they they brightened the movie afterwards.
Maybe. All right, well, unless you guys have anything else to add to this wonderful professional discussion.
Go watch the Lost Chord music video by Gorillaz because it has some kaiju-inspired imagery in there.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. It's my closing words.
That's your closing words?
Also,
that's
a great song.
The cool new kaiju thing you've been checking out, that one Gorillaz music video?
Yeah, actually.
All right, cool.
I've watched it once in the last, 2 weeks, but it's pretty
pretty
memorable.
They record at Kong Studios, so, it fits.
They do, yeah.
There you go. There's your fun fact for the day.
Your official, unofficial endorsement by a Gorillaz fan.
Damon Albarn, you should also come on the show.
Yeah, he's going to be here. He's going to be confused.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What's a Godzilla?
Just going to be writing new music the whole time. 'Cause that's all he does.
Yeah, it really does. But, yeah, I think that'll be it for this episode of Talking Toku. I just realized I never really explained what Talking Toku meant. I'll edit this and put it near the beginning.
Or just save it for next time. Just keep it ambiguous.
Keep it ambiguous?
Okay. Yeah, it'll build us some mystery. And then 100 episodes from now, you can leak a little bit more information on what it means. And just
it's not like it's that difficult to figure out what the meaning of toku is. It's short for tokusatsu, which is the Japanese term for, the suitmation, miniature, special effects. I think it's directly translated. It is special filming. So that's what talking toku means. We're talking tokusatsu, talking special effects.
So we're going to definitely talk about Power Rangers at some point.
At some point, I would like to. Me and Brian saw the Power Rangers movie in the theaters.
Oh, the new one, the American one.
Yeah.
Oh, how did that go?
I distinctly remember wearing a sweatshirt that says, "I wish I was doing anything else."
It was entertaining. That's about all it was.
Yeah, it actually wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
It was
Even though it opened with a joke about jerking a cow off.
yeah.
Oh,
That was the first.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. That was the first time we actually get introduced to a main character, is them joking about. Yeah.
Hey, at least I wasn't bored though.
Very true. All right, that'll do it for today's episode of Talking Toku. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at Talking Toku or on Facebook, also at Talking Toku. Tune in next time when Brian and I, and maybe Jake, who knows, talk about Pacific Rim: The Black, and then, of course, Godzilla vs. Kong. All right.
Thanks for listening. This has been Brian Kershaw.
thanks for having me on. This has been Jake Mack.
And I'm your co-host, David Scrivani. We'll see you guys next time.